Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto. This is your week daily show where we come at you live 10 a.m. Eastern every single day, and we bring you the latest Bitcoin technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis of cryptocurrency markets so that you can be kept up to date of where we have been, where we are, and where we are going in the wonderful world of crypto. Today, we're going to be talking about a tweet from famed on-chain and fundamental analyst Will Clemente over on Twitter, who is a friend of the show. He tweeted out a chart that shows 80% of global adoption, global population using Bitcoin within 23 years in 2045, 90% using Bitcoin by 2060. Can Bitcoin follow through on that parabolic S-curve of adoption? Has Bitcoin well and truly only just begun? Are we actually going to see a $5 to $10 million Bitcoin, something that would invariably happen if we saw 7 billion people using Bitcoin? We're going to discuss all of that and more in today's video. We're also going to be talking about the technical analysis on Bitcoin. As you know, we're currently sitting at $39,000, very much in a hectic, decision-prone point. For Bitcoin to be able to continue to the upside here, it's going to need to really fight over the next couple of days. It is trying to push down below $37,000 right now, breaking recent levels of support, resetting new lower lows. We're going to be talking about where Bitcoin has been over the last couple of weeks and where Bitcoin may be going in this episode of Coffee and Crypto Live. So if you do enjoy today's show, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. But let's go ahead and introduce our co-host. I am joined, as always, by T-Shroom. How are you doing, T-Shroom?
I'm doing really, really well, and I really like how that phone notification went off. Right.
I really like how you recognized it, even though I pretended like it didn't happen, and I'm down here trying to mute my phone because we forgot to run through the SPRS before we started. My bad.
Yeah, but absolutely excited to cover everything that's going on today, and let's get into it.
There we go. Let's get into it. We're also joined, as always, by Kelly, coming in hot from New York. How you doing, Kelly?
I'm doing great, man. You know, the market's still just doing its same old thing. I'm just happy to be here, and thank you everybody for tuning in with us, especially those that are here every day. Definitely, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe if this is your first time here. We got a lot to cover today, and you know, we're coming up on the end of the month, so we're starting to see some decent things sort of diverging in a bullish way. So let's get into it.
Good deal. Well, guys, we are also joined, as always, as of late, because Smay is actually on the road back from NAB right now, by Zach. How are you doing, Zach?
I'm doing great. I have my coffee this morning, Ethiopian Natural, V60. All y'all coffee lovers, it's perfect.
You used to be a barista, right?
I did. I actually I have a coffee roasting certification. So I mix it up.
My wife was very impressed that we had a barista on staff. She's like, you have a barista on staff? I'm like, yeah, Zach, he's an editor, but he also is like insanely good at making coffee. I was telling one of our Cuban family that's a friend of ours about you, and they're like, yeah, you want a Cuban coffee? I'm like, I've had a Cuban coffee before. Sorry, Zach, I think they got you beat, but they got like 60 years experience making Cubans, so I don't know what to say on that one. But you haven't made any of us a cup of coffee in a while, have you?
It's true. We do have a espresso machine, but we need to get that up and running.
We're going to have to work on that.
I like espresso.
Zach can make a good cup of coffee. You drink espresso straight sometimes, don't you? You just do a shot of it?
Every now and then. I like my pour-overs. I like my pour-overs better. But
I'm not sure if you're a crazier man than me or a stronger man than me, or both for drinking espresso straight.
I love espresso.
No, I love espresso too, but I'm talking straight. Like
yeah, straight espresso, just a shot of
insane.
espresso.
Okay, I love my coffee. In fact, I love my creamer with a little bit of coffee. That's how I take my coffee because, you know, I belong in a Starbucks. But that's beside the point. Today's show is brought to you by Market Cypher. You're going to see us using it quite a bit today in the technical analysis. So make sure you check out the link for that down below. And don't forget that today's show is also brought to you, and every show is brought to you by Club DeFi. It is currently in beta, and the Discord server is popping, guys. We got about 60, 70 people in there right now. There's over 200 people that are currently in Club DeFi. Those are being all those beta testers and then some CT2A alumni. The Discord server is doing really well. I was in there yesterday with Alchemist and Jeffrey. Got to video chat with them. Got to meet Alchemist for the first time face to face. I'd met Jeffrey. We'd actually met him in chat in person before, but got to meet Alchemist and some of his family. It was really cool. It was a great time, and I'm very much looking forward to the rest of you guys being able to get in Club DeFi so that we can have some fun over there in that Discord and take a look at all of the content, guys. Before full release, I believe there's going to be probably about 130 to 150 videos. Kelly, do you know what the number is going to be on that? Because we want to have the trading course and the on-chain course and maybe some other stuff out before launch.
I know Zach would have a better answer to this. I know the TA course, which is a completely reproduction of CT2A, and not
With
only
a lot
a
added to
reproduction,
it.
but there's a lot added. It's a lot tighter. There's a lot more information, and that's over 70 video. I think it's 76 or 77. And then the trading course is over 40. It's 40 or 44, something like that. And currently, I'm on chain, which will be that'll I'll be wrapping that up this week and next week, and that'll be another 25 videos, and we have more videos, more courses we're doing throughout every month through the rest of the year, in addition to the we have the office hours that we're doing throughout the week, so we can meet with people that are part of Club DeFi and answer questions, and webinars. There's just so much that's going to be involved with this. It's fantastic.
We are really looking forward to it. Guys, make sure to smash that like button and also get ready because today's show is going to be great. Anyone know if current CT2A members get access to Club DeFi? I never saw an email. Ricardo Venegas said, yes, you do. Give us an email, support@cryptojeb.com, and we should be able to help you out with that. But let's go ahead and jump on over to CoinMarketCap. Right now, Bitcoin is trading at $39,141, up 6.2% over the last 90 days, down 8% over the last 7, down 0.5% over the last 24 hours. Looking at the chart, looking at the chart, we can see that Bitcoin right now is punching down into this zone of support that we had drawn a week and a half ago between $38,500 and $40,000. At the moment, Bitcoin is having a very difficult time maintaining that. And to be honest with you, I'm actually going to bring down this level a little bit lower, down from 38.7 down to 37.5. The reason I'm doing that is because that's going to push that zone of support a little bit deeper into the VPVR. As you can see, where we had the zone, the level before at 39.7. Right here, or 38.7 was the VPVR maximum for the last several years, but I'm actually going to pull it down a little bit now because it looks like we're breaking down below the VPVR maximum, and we're going to push this down to 37.5, which has to do with a lot of these lows back over here. We're going to extend this a little bit and manipulate our support zone just a little bit. Right now, Bitcoin is sitting in this zone, is trying to hold it, but the trouble is there just isn't that much interest from the retail guys. We're seeing this show up in YouTube viewership, for example. We've talked about this before. YouTube viewership is actually a very strong metric to understand the retail interest in the space. YouTube viewership across the board on pretty much every single crypto channel, if you'd average it out, is down 60 or more % for every single crypto YouTuber, this channel included. And that's not to say that any of the YouTubers are making less quality content. In fact, I think pretty much all of my colleagues here on YouTube are making superior content to what they were doing 6 months ago. But the fact is, there just aren't that many people consuming it because the price action is not as interesting. There's not as much hype. So when that happens, Bitcoin has a hard time keeping the rally going because right now, a lot of the price action is driven by the retail. So we're going to get to that a little bit more in a little bit, but let's throw it to Kelly real quick.
I want to just highlight exactly what you're saying. I'm in this group that I chat with a bunch of other analysts, and somebody shared this yesterday or the day before, and this highlights exactly what you're talking about. This is a graphic showing the new weekly YouTube subscribers on a number of different large YouTube accounts. I mean, you see this massive influx when we were at the first peak, another large influx when we had that second peak at 68. And look how far down this is now. I mean, our channel alone has been hovering around, 225? We've been between 200 and 225 for like 6 months now, whereas we went from 100 to 200 in probably 3 months, like during the bull market. So it's a great gauge.
Wow,
it's kind of a passive gauge, but it's a great gauge on interest in the market. When these numbers are down and people aren't as interested in getting the information about crypto and logging into these different analytical sites and news sites, it's a great gauge on the lack of retail interest in the market right now.
Yeah, wow. I had never seen that chart. That's really great. I'm going to want to look at that again. That is something that's exactly what I'm talking about, guys. It is a powerful metric. I didn't know that was actually graphed anywhere. I've been looking at it in kind of a qualitative form for the last couple of years, but that's really interesting to actually see that quantitatively right there. That's very powerful because that's exactly what I'm talking about. The interest just isn't there right now. It's all dried up, and that's okay. I mean, that's just what it is. That means that we have more opportunity to buy the dips. That means that the YouTubers have more time to double down on their quality and make better content. That's what we're doing. We're launching Club DeFi. A lot of great things going on, but we just need to understand that it is going to take time for the market to get there, and that's a big part of the point of today's video. If you look at the title, we're talking about how 80% of Earth is going to more than likely adopt Bitcoin by 2045. At least Will Clemente says that on Twitter. I agree with him, but we've got to keep our perspective, because it's very tempting when we're in this space, when the market is pulling back, when nobody is subscribing to the YouTube channel. As a YouTuber, it could be encouraging, it could be tempting to get discouraged, or as the investor, it could be tempting to get discouraged that the market's ever going to go up. It can be very tempting to make the wrong decision. But the good news is we have complete and total freedom to not fall into those temptations, so long as we maintain our long-term perspective and we remember why Bitcoin was created in the first place and why we're here in the first place, which is to take back financial sovereignty from the powers that be that don't care about us. That is why we are here. Taking a look at some of these cryptos, you can see that Ethereum is down 1% today. Binance Coin actually rallying a little bit, sitting at $400. Solana down 2%, XRP down 2%, Luna sitting flat, just under 90, Cardano sitting just over 80. Guys, these are some good deals. A lot of these cryptocurrencies have not seen these kind of prices in months. Now, Luna doesn't count. Luna's had a crazy run over the last 90 days. You can see it right here. But most of these cryptocurrencies are sitting down here trading sideways or moving to the downside over the last 90 days. Take a look at this. Cardano down 20% in the last 90 days. If you look at it, in the metric like that. And you can also look here at year to date. Let's take a look at year to date. How far have some of these cryptocurrencies gone since the beginning of the year? If we look since the beginning of the year, Bitcoin is down 20%, Ethereum's down 24%, Binance Coin down 24%, Solana down 45%. That's crazy. Cardano down 40%, Avalanche down 40%, Dogecoin down 20%, DOT down 41%. And we were already in a downtrend for 2 months when the year started. There are such good deals going on right now. So why leave the space when instead you could be loading up for the next time that we see a major run like this? With that said, let's go ahead and take a look back at Bitcoin. As I was saying, the number of YouTube subscribers is going down. That's showing that the retail interest is drying up. But why does that matter? Because aren't the institutions coming into the space? Aren't the institutions walking into crypto and buying up billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin? Aren't the institutions coming in, accumulating Bitcoin, and then they're going to put it straight into their own pockets and hold on to it and take away Bitcoin from the liquid supply and lock it up for the next 10, 15 years? Isn't that going to lower the supply? And then when the demand changes at all, Bitcoin's going to moonshot? Well, a little bit, but here's the tricky thing. And we've talked about this a couple times. George even mentioned it when he was on our channel, and he's absolutely right. Bitcoin is moved, the price is moved by trading on exchanges. So if the trade does not occur on exchange, then there's no transmission of that price data to the open market. Let me give you an example. T-Shroom, if I wanted to buy $50 worth of Bitcoin from you, then no one would know that I bought $50 worth of Bitcoin from you. Now, it would show up on the blockchain as a transaction, but the blockchain recording transactions is not how price data gets transmitted. Price data in markets gets transmitted when the entire world knows about that transaction and it actually has an impact on an order book somewhere. Prices only move when there is an open market where there is proper supply and demand in motion. If T-Shroom and I just buy and sell Bitcoin to each other, we actually are not impacting that supply and demand. However, if you trade on exchange, then you are, because there's an order book, and when you buy, you're taking up the sell orders, and when you sell, you're taking up the buy orders, so you're moving the market in a certain direction. So what's the point here? You only really move the market in a shorter term sense. Now, in the longer term sense, you do move the market by changing supply side, but typically it's demand side on exchanges that moves the market, especially in Bitcoin with a fixed supply like 21 million. The only real way you move the price action of Bitcoin on the only real way you move the price action of Bitcoin is when you make a movement on the exchange. So here's why the retail drying up is important. The retail drying up means that they're not trading on exchanges. However, we're seeing a massive amount of institutions come into the space. What does that mean? Well, the institutions trade in a form called over-the-counter trading. And OTC, which is what it's called, over-the-counter trades, are very simply just exactly what I talked about with T-Shroom. Hey, I want to buy $50 worth of Bitcoin from you, except you have a Morgan Stanley Dean Witter come in and they say, we want to buy $15 million worth of Bitcoin. They're working on much larger sums of money. They've added, 4, 5, 6, 7 digits to that $50 transaction. But the principle is the same. It's an over-the-counter trade. It's not being reported to the exchange, which means it's not impacting the order books of the exchange, because what happens when you trade on an order book is that if you buy or sell too much Bitcoin, you run up the order book. So you might buy Bitcoin at $40,000, and then everybody who was selling at $40,000 already sold, so now you have to buy from people buying at $41,000 and $42,000 and $43,000 and $44,000, and sooner or later you bought $50 million worth of Bitcoin and you move the price $4,000 to the upside. On over-the-counter markets, you don't do that because there's no order book. So if there's no order book, there's no price transfer of information to the open market, which means the price doesn't change. Quite simply, if there's no order book, you're not moving the price of Bitcoin. So over-the-counter trades don't do that. Why is that important? Most of the volume right now is not retail volume. Most of the volume, and it's been trending this way for 6 months, most of the volume in Bitcoin is not retail volume. It's not you and me trading less than 100 Bitcoin. It's mostly institutions trading $50 million worth of Bitcoin back and forth, hodling. Now, what they might do is they might buy $50 million worth of Bitcoin, go on exchange, sell $5 million worth of it, drop the price $500, and then buy more so they can get a discount. That is called manipulation, and that does happen. But most of the price action is not being moved by the institutions. Now, here's the good thing. When these institutions do accumulate well, this is kind of a good thing. When the institutions do accumulate Bitcoin, and they're holding on to it for the long run, as many of them are. Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy being a good example. They're taking money, they're taking Bitcoin off of the market. They're putting it into that illiquid supply. Kelly's talked about quite a bit, and I'll ask you here in a second what that number is, how there's about 80%, somewhere around that, of the Bitcoin is sitting in long-term storage. Long-term storage being over, long-term hodling being over 155 days where the coin hasn't moved. When they're taking those Bitcoin and taking them off exchanges, they are making it so that that cannot be touched, and that lowers the supply of Bitcoin, the actual circulating supply of Bitcoin, the actual supply that can be traded, because the other is sitting in long-term storage and isn't being traded. That lowers the supply of Bitcoin, allowing for the price to go up. So it is a good thing when people are accumulating Bitcoin and hodling it, and it means that we have a stronger foundation. It means that we're setting a higher floor. Before, Bitcoin's floor was, $3,000 to $4,000. Now it's $30,000 to $40,000. That's because of the change in how many people are hodling Bitcoin, but it does mean that it's difficult to get the price moving because the retail is not in the space. So Kelly, when do you think we're going to see these parabolic movements come back? Do you think we have to see an influx of retail trading on the exchanges to see a parabolic movement, or are we going to continue to see Bitcoin trade sideways because the retail's not here?
Well, I think it's a bit of a guessing game right now, and all we can do is look to the data. And so the data is suggesting that we're at as good of a buying position opportunity as we've ever had in Bitcoin right now, because of how much the illiquid supply is something like 75 or 76%. All the on-chain metrics, and I share all these on my Twitter regularly, and you repost those on your Twitter as well. So you all, if you're not following us on Twitter, definitely follow, because we try to share this stuff as much as possible. Reserve risk is very low. There's much less downside risk than there is upside. There's an asymmetry to gains versus losses and where we're at right now. And I think everything is really, unfortunately, contingent right now on what's happening with the broader market, the traditional markets and the global equities, interest rates, all these things, because Bitcoin hasn't yet fully switched over to being that ultimate hedge against all these things, as it's meant to be and hoped to be for a long time. But the one thing, we'll get into this when we dive into the story after we do the TA in a little while, but one of the biggest shifts I've seen and the most bullish shifts I've seen in the crypto market, especially Bitcoin, is in this last year. The amount of institutional money that's now involved. Fidelity now offering Bitcoin as an option to invest in your 401ks. And I saw a metric the other day. Fidelity has over 23,000 different companies that use them to manage their 401k portfolios. For their, the 23,000 companies, employees. So the shift is starting to happen. The short-term holders are very quickly and more regularly becoming long-term holders. People are holding longer. So we're just waiting for that momentum to pick up. The supply shock is already sort of underway, because with the level of what's going on globally, price should have fallen further, and it hadn't. The way that it's being held at this level is very bullish. So I think right now we're playing the most bullish waiting game ever in terms of who's going to capitulate and then miss out on this upside, who's going to be the long-term holders and benefit from it. So right now it's just a DCA game.
Absolutely. And guys, I completely agree with what he just said. I want to throw it to T-Shroom real quick, but make sure you smash that like button if you haven't already. Let's see if we can get to 400 likes here in the next couple of minutes. Thank you so very much for tuning into today's show. T-Shroom, I have a question for you. We have seen a massive amount of people leave the cryptocurrency space. However, A lot of them have stayed. Many of them are in this chat right now. We have a very solid core community here at Crypto Jab that we are very thankful for. And the same thing is true for the rest of the cryptocurrency space. There's a very strong core community that's going nowhere. If that weren't true, we wouldn't see the floor of Bitcoin going from $3,000 or $4,000 to $30,000 or $40,000 in the span of 3 years. Would you say that as the weak hands have been shaken off, we are left with a stronger core that we have ever had before, and that's going to make it easier for us to go to $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in the future because we have a much larger core following of Bitcoin, core investment following of Bitcoin than we've ever had before?
Absolutely, and I would say that reality, that phenomenon, is reflected in Bitcoin's price. As Kelly made a great point, I hadn't even thought about it like that. You know, we really should have gone lower by now with how much pessimism there is from the Fed and from the market in general. You know, but also from an educational standpoint, you know, the people that have stuck around, well, you know, they've become ingrained, they've become entrenched in ultimately orange pilling folks as well as their own personal investments. And so when the next wave of craze around crypto comes around, you know, there'll be a lot less, you know, moon boying, there'll be a lot less uneducated speak. There'll be a lot more people who have really taken the time to become more seasoned in crypto. And, you know, a lot of the folks that are in our chat right now are definitely ones that come to mind, you know, and it's just a matter of, you know, the big media kind of ushering back in crypto as a main talking point that they cover. But right now there's just so much else for them to discuss that, you know, it kind of takes a seat. Although last night I listened to BBC World Service pretty religiously, and they covered the African nation that just adopted Bitcoin. And I was like, I was cooking with my girlfriend, and I said, "Hold on, I got to listen to this story." And it was interesting because it was the second story on the BBC World Service, which I can only imagine is like one of the most listened to, you know, media pieces that goes out every day to the world. So it's just a matter of time, and you know, folks have gotten shaken out who were never really supposed to be traders in the first place. Folks that got shaken out that were scared, you know, or were only in it for the money. And, you know, now what remains are folks who are pretty steadfast, you know, they're hodlers through and through, like myself. And I think that we're setting a great foundation for a move upward. And it's just a matter of time. You know, we got to get some more stars aligned, and we got to get the Fed, you know, figured out that the U.S. government, you know, has got to be able to figure out how they can provide a sustainable monetary policy to move forward. And that might take a long time, but in the meantime, the media cycle might come back and start to see Bitcoin as the answer. It would take quite a bit of a downturn, of a recession perhaps, but we might be covering these GDP numbers. I put it in the doc. So you want to go ahead and jump into that really quick?
Let's take one last look at the chart, because I'd like Kelly to give us some insight on what Bitcoin's doing with Market Cipher, and then we can read some super chats. But you were talking about the GDP metrics. I saw that the U.S. lost a little bit of growth on GDP. Did I see that right?
Yeah, so the GDP numbers dropped this morning, comes in at negative 1.4% GDP. This is the GDP. It was forecasted.
The United States.
It was forecasted for 1.1%, and previously was 6.9%.
Golly.
So I don't think. I mean, we were definitely expecting quite a bit of a drop from 6.9%, but I don't think anybody was expecting negative. That means that the entire economic productivity of the United States contracted, which is just a little unsettling there. That kind of stirs up the term possible recession. You know, is going to be something you'll probably be seeing in the headlines. But the silver lining is that it could actually prevent the Fed from hiking rates. If they see this, if I'm Jerome Powell and I'm seeing negative GDP, you know, I might be rethinking some of the bond buying policies that I've just come out and told Wall Street I'm going to start contracting. I might actually be thinking, actually, you know what? We're not going to go ahead and hike up the rates. But, that's my own personal speculation. What do you think, Jeb? Do you think that Jerome Powell's getting shocked by these GDP numbers?
I don't think Jerome Powell's shocked by any of it. I think we've been in a recession for the last 2 years, and because you're printing the money so much, it's skewed all the metrics, and it makes it look like we're fine when we're not. When you have the price of lumber going up 200%, when you have the price of steel doubling, when you have the price of vehicles with 100,000 more miles on them than they did 3 years ago being sold for more now than they were 3 years ago when they were brand new, there's a recession going on. There might not be a recession on Wall Street, but there's certainly a recession going on Main Street. Just because the stock market looks like it's doing well does not mean that we're not in a recession. The reason that the stock market isn't doing what it did in 2008 is because in 2008, there was quantitative easing, which is the fancy politically correct term for inflating the crap out of the U.S. dollar, was not going on quite as bad as it is now. There's been a recession, guys. We've been in a recession since March of 2020. It's not that we're about to start a recession. It's that we've been in a recession, except we've been kicking the can down the road. So yeah, no, we're definitely in a recession, in my opinion. The thing is, the tricky thing is the definition of the word recession. Are we based on definition in a recession? Maybe not, because a recession, if I remember correctly, the proper definition is it's either 2 or 3 quarters of negative GDP growth. But GDP is a skewed metric because it's based on a skewed currency. The heart of what a recession has already been going on for 2 years, in my opinion. 2 quarters of negative growth is what FPL Wannabe said. That's what I thought it was, but I haven't looked at that definition in a while. I'm pretty sure you're right on that.
Yeah, it's hard to really characterize it when you have massive inflation that's making the recession not obvious because the dollar value is going up, but in reality, the cost of goods is going up along with it. So it would definitely have been in a recession that's just been masked by this, uncontrolled sort of inflation that we've been seeing.
Exactly. And that's why everybody...
It's got to run in tandem with the unemployment rate too.
Yes, exactly. And the unemployment rate is a little bit manipulated also, but we'll be spending all day on that conversation. We keep that up. Kelly, can you give us just a little quick 2 or 3 minute update on what's going on with Market Cipher over on Bitcoin? Then we're going to read some super chats and jump into our discussion about Will Clemente.
Yeah, let's jump right on into it. And right before I jump into Market Cipher, I do want to point out just on the traditional indicators here on the daily, we're seeing that the MACD is rolling over. And I think what would this be? Basically, since April 4th, we've been basically negative MACD, red MACD, and this is rolling over. So in a day or two, this could flip green. And I actually talk about this bottom indicator here, the stochastic momentum index. I talk about this quite a bit in the trading course, but that's also showing that there's some bullish pressure coming in, a little bit oversold in this region. But when we're looking at Market Cipher, one of the things that I noticed immediately when looking at that is we can see here that the price is following these levels very, very well. Like, we found support here. We fell through this. Once we bounced off this golden support here, we rejected back at this level, came back, down here. Now we're sort of dancing around this area. But this massive sort of downtrend right here in price is not echoed in the momentum. The momentum is pretty flat here. So there's a slight bit of bullish divergence here on Market Cipher when you're looking at the momentum. One of the things I do want to point out, though, also is that the money flow, if we look here, I'll pull this up large, the money flow is kind of been going back and forth to red to green, money coming out to money coming in. And we're right now, we're actually rounding right here. We very well could get a bounce here and come back up. And the reason I say that is because not only is this rounding, but the RSIs are both turned back up. The VWAP is fairly sharply coming back towards the zero line, and we do have a green dot, and this is on the daily. Now, when we're coming down here to a bit smaller time frame, intraday, the 4 hour, we have a much sort of larger divergence here, where in between these two levels, you see this downtrend on the price action and the pretty steep increase here on the momentum. So there's a very, very, very obvious sort of momentum, bullish momentum divergence on Market Cipher within this. And the last thing we can look at here is the DBSI and the Market Cipher A. And so the DBSI is showing that we're getting a little bit of Under 10, I kind of look at it as somewhat neutral, indifferent, but we are getting an 8 on the bearish pressure pressing down, but we're finding support right here on this golden support. I think it's likely that we will flush through this, and whether we come down and touch this all the way, it's kind of irrelevant, but I do think we're going to find some liquidity that's below this area before we roll back over and have upside. But we are seeing a little bit of, rolling over, the momentum coming back down. It's about to get a red dot on the 4-hour, VWAP's coming down, and the RSIs are split, one up, one down. So there's a bit of indifference in the market, looking through all the different aspects of market cipher here. So the daily is looking more bullish than the 4-hour, but that's kind of as to be expected right now with the intraday trading, with the markets just opening here in New York. And a lot of times when new markets open, whether it's London, New York, or the Asian markets, the market tends to go the opposite direction. So because we were coming up into New York, now we're sort of finding that liquidity to the downside. So it's still a patient game right now. We need to find that momentum before we can start breaking things to the upside.
Absolutely. Well, good deal. Thank you very much for that, Kelly. Let's go ahead and move on now into reading some of our super chats, and then we're going to jump into a very interesting tweet from Will Clemente claiming 80% adoption of Bitcoin within the next 23 years. Let's do it.
Kelly, that was an excellent interpretation of the market cipher there. I really enjoyed that.
Yes, it was.
Diving into the super chats, we've got one here from Elliot Loch, $10. Prayers for Tim. If we break 37, 36K and go down the VPVR hill, the next LYL is about 27.5K. What do you need to not break that LYL? And if we do break it, there is nothing stopping us going lower.
I think he's saying level, not to break that level. And if we do break it, there's nothing to stop us going lower. I would say there is something to stop us going lower. It's called $500 billion of institutional money on the sidelines waiting to buy dips. So if we start getting down towards that $30,000 level again, then we're probably going to see a lot of institutions stepping in and buying those dips. The thing is, at this point, Bitcoin has really established a strong floor around $30,000. And I'm not talking about the same way Bitcoin had established a strong floor of $6,000 in 2018, as we talked about then. At that time, Bitcoin was setting lower highs, and it was technically setting lower lows as well. Bitcoin was in a descending triangle pattern in 2018, but technically, you could have just as easily drawn this as a falling wedge, which meant that we were in a downtrend the entire time rather than this flat level of support. Bitcoin was not in a position back then that we are in now. At the moment, Bitcoin has several higher highs and higher lows, and it even sees an uptrend right here that has been testing in recent memory. So I'd be very surprised to see a $27,500 Bitcoin. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I would definitely say it's improbable. $27,500 would be a further, as we can see right here, a further 30% drop from where we are right now. You'd probably see Cardano go down to 50 or 60 cents. You know, you'd probably see Ethereum go down to $2,000, Binance going down to 250, Solana down to $60. You would have so many buying opportunities that a lot of institutions would step in and buy up the market. And a lot of them would buy up the market in a way that in such a massive way that it probably would start to overcome that force that I talked about earlier about it being OTC and not transmitting the price action that well, and start to impact that. And you'd probably also see a lot of people in the retail buying on exchanges. So the lower we go, the more buying pressure there's going to be. It is true that there's not a massive zone of support here between 20 and 27. That is definitely a little void right there that could be dangerous. You could see Bitcoin try and push through that down into the high teens. But I really just do not see how we're possibly going to have Bitcoin drop down to $20,000 or $27,000 without a massive amount of buying, considering how many people are now in the space and how many people really understand what Bitcoin is. I just don't think you're going to see it personally. But T-Shroom, what do you think? Full screen?
Yeah. First of all, I apologize. The LYL. I had never seen a level abbreviated like that. I like that. I like it. Yeah. It's very, very cool.
Level.
But I mean, ultimately, I agree with you, Jeb. I mean, Kelly puts kind of the low end of where we could go at 27,000. So I think it's in the cards for Kelly. But you know, and I think that it is possible. But I do agree. I think people are way too eager to buy. Would be way too eager to buy down at that level, and it probably wouldn't get down that far, or it would wick down like, you know, within like an hour of trading and then come right back up, and everybody would miss out on that opportunity because there's a bunch of bots waiting to buy. That's the way it goes. Mike Markle or Kelly, did you want to say anything about that, about those levels?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and I shared this the other day, but I'll share it again because I think it's quite valuable. This is the trend fib bands, and the fib bands are basically Fibonacci extensions or reductions, multiples on the realized price. And we're holding right here at this level, which is basically the bull control band. It doesn't mean that if you fall below this, it means we're going to absolutely capitulate. Because if you see back here, for instance, in the 2012 cycle, we did hold at that level, but then we came down and we touched right at the top, which is basically the bear. Once you go below that, it's basically bear control. Sorry, this is right here. But this came down, touch, and rebounded, and then continued on to the actual all-time high of this cycle back in 2012. But where we're at right now, we even going down as low as $31,000, anywhere above 31,200, we're still not based on this metric. We're still not in bear control. And separate from that, we have whales, basically balances with over 1,000 Bitcoin still going up, very bullish divergence with this sideways price action, buying at these levels. So I don't see us capitulating that much further. And the last thing I'll mention is Plan C. I don't have the chart up, but Plan C has a confluence floor model where he's looked at all the different floor models out there and basically created an aggregate floor model. And that one right now is sitting at $28,000. So if we did go down that level, I wouldn't expect that we go I wouldn't expect that we'd have multiple daily closes below that level, especially being that, our previous all-time high was around $20,000, and we've never had price come all the way back down and touch at the level of our previous cycle all-time high. So I think the 28 to 31 would be the lowest. But if I had to bet on it, and I had to bet my money, which I'm doing every day with my trading, I think that I'm not saying this is the channel's disposition. I think we've actually already bottomed, and we're just doing a lot of sideways shaking out before we finally get the short-term holders exhausted before we continue up.
Yeah, no, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that's what we're going to say. I agree with that 28 to 31 being the absolute low. I'm not necessarily inclined to say that it's going to go that low either, but I really don't think it would go lower than that. So let's go ahead and read this next super chat and then get moving on here because we're a little bit behind. Do you have that written down? I believe it was Mike Markle, wasn't it?
Yep. Mike Markle donated $5. If you are in the Club DeFi Beta, make sure you come over to the Discord, working together to become better and more knowledgeable investors. I can't echo that sentiment loudly or strongly enough. You got to get over there to the Discord.
Absolutely.
And I changed my profile pic over there. So
and actually here in about an hour, I am going to be in the Discord server talking to you guys. I was in there yesterday with Alchemist and with Jeffrey. So I'm going to be jumping in a call on the Discord probably in about an hour. I think I'm going to shoot today's afternoon video first, and then I'll jump in there for a little bit and just talk to you guys. But then we're going to go ahead and jump on in there, and I'll spend a little bit of time with you guys. I'm probably going to try and do that every day. And we're also going to be setting up different events. Maybe we'll set up some events where we get out the entire team in a call and you guys can meet all of us and whatnot. So that Discord server is going to be really cool. If you don't know how to get into the Discord server, but you are still in the beta, then make sure to go to your account page. And then at the very bottom of your account page over on Club DeFi, there is a connected Discord server connector, and it will sign you up really, really easily. It's like one-click functionality. I was very impressed with how easy it was. A lot of times connecting an account to a Discord server is kind of difficult. It was ridiculously easy, which is a really good thing for you guys. Got about 60, 70 of our members over there in Discord, so that means some of you guys are in Club DeFi, but you're not in the Discord. Make sure you get in there. There's a lot going on over there, and you definitely don't want to miss it. Crypto Set Guy, let's read this, and then we're going to get moving on here. He just donated. Thank you so much for that. When will Kelly play us a song on his guitar? Kelly?
I will say the next live stream that we have here on Coffee and Crypto that I'm on, that we get over 1,500 likes, I will play you a ditty.
There we go. Okay. Good deal. Let me just answer Dylan real quick. Dylan Martinez said, I have still yet to get a proper link to the Discord. Like I said, go to your, if you're in the beta, make sure to go to your account page, and then at the bottom of it, there will be a connector that says something to the effect of connect to Discord, and then that will give you a one-click functionality. You'll basically click it, it'll link to Discord where you sign into Discord, and then you will be in the Discord. It's very, very simple, so make sure you check that out. But if you're having any trouble with that, and since it's a beta, maybe we don't have it set up in a way that's very user-friendly, we obviously want to continue to improve. If you don't like the way that it's set up, or if it's hard to find, or if there's any feedback at all, make sure to to shoot us an email, support@cryptojeb.com, Dylan, and let us know, and then we will do our very best to work on that. And by the way, one more final thing on the Discord. There is a support and suggestions functionality over here in the Discord. In fact, jump on my screen and I'll show it to you right now. Over here, there's a support and suggestions section right here, service suggestions and course feedback. This is a beta. Club DeFi is a beta, so make sure you come in here and tell us what you think. Hey, the video needs to be 2 minutes longer because you didn't explain that very well, or hey, the server needs to have this functionality so that I can check the price or whatever. You know, if you have any feedback, this is a beta, guys. We're trying to improve the functionality of the course and of the Discord, so make sure that you give us any feedback you have. Let's go to full screen now, and let's discuss this tweet from none other than a friend of the channel, Will Clemente. Take a look at this. You can jump on my screen. Will Clemente said this, and in fact, we retweeted it. A little leak from the Bitcoin user adoption report our team is working on. We are so early. Sometimes it's easy to see sometimes it's easy to let short-term volatility distract you from the bigger picture. I retweeted this and said, Bitcoin is the most asymmetric investment opportunity available, regardless of price volatility when zoomed in. BTC has not even entered its parabolic growth, adoption/growth yet. You are still early. Now, let's look at this graph. Blockware Solutions says that current adoption of crypto is around, I would say that's about 3% is what they're saying. I would agree with that metric. I would say real, serious, hardcore adoption of Bitcoin, i.e. you have a multiple percent of your entire net worth in crypto. You're using it regularly, like on the weekly, maybe your dollar cost average. I'm talking to the people that are in this Discord, Club DeFi, in the YouTube channel here. I'm talking to these kinds of people. That is maybe 1 to 2%. 3% I think is pushing it. The number of people in crypto is very, very small. There are some reports that come out and say, oh, it's 13%. And maybe 13% has bought Bitcoin on Cash App one time and they have $5 of it sitting in an account on an app that they don't use anymore. But that is not adoption. We're talking about people actually using Bitcoin that actually, to some extent, understand what Bitcoin is. It's actually become a part of their life. We're looking at maybe 1 or 2%. Now, something very interesting happens on an S-curve of adoption, which is what we're looking at here from Will Clemente. Around the time you hit 5 to 10, in some cases about 13%, you hit something called an inflection point, and that's when things go parabolic. Will Clemente and his team are citing that we would probably see that inflection point happen somewhere between 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks after 2022, which would be 2025 to 2026. We may see a parabolic inflection point, which would see mass adoption kick off, and we would start pushing towards 20% market dominance, which would be 10 times the number of people in crypto right now, like legitimately in crypto. That means that what we're looking at here, Will Clemente is basically saying that we could see a market capitalization of over 10 times more than what we're seeing right now, maybe even 20 times more than what we're seeing right now within 10 years of now, which actually plays into the video we talked about yesterday where Kathy Wood of ARK Invest said that she could see a $20 trillion Ethereum market capitalization within 10 years. And I said, you know what? That's a little bit more aggressive than some of my predictions, but it actually does make sense. What's the point here? You're so freaking early, it's not even funny. Kelly, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Why are we, as human beings, so inclined to look at what's going on in the last 3 months and forget about what's going on over the next 30 years?
Man, that's the story of my life. It's something that I struggle with, every moment. Even being involved in crypto as long as I have, I'll invest into a new project and expect because I saw somebody else had gains and how much they had. For instance, you're a great case in point here. You're a great example. A lot of people watch this channel, me for years included, where you see somebody, you might tune in for the first time or even for a couple months, and you see the level of success people have, and you think that it's as easy as just starting, and that starting is the hardest part, because you have to change every sort of mental framework and, the original blueprint you had to accept this new path. But we expect it to all of a sudden have the same rewards, and they don't, a lot of people don't realize it takes years of development and integration, both in terms of our psyche as well as practice. So I think we have this propensity to want things to be the best outcome as they can be from the jump. But, if I've learned anything in my life, there's nothing worth having that has great value unless you have to put work into it. And crypto is the easiest work you can do. The only work you really have to do to make it is have the courage to buy, and then have the quadruple courage to hold. Just hold for 5 years and come back and tell me if you're underwater. If you're underwater, I absolutely doubt it. I'll buy you a shake and a burger. It's not possible. If you're buying, Bitcoin, Ethereum, other, top five sort of coins, buying and holding is what it is. And, I think, now with the ETF on the verge, I think that'll be one of the things that really kicks off that true parabola, because it's going to give a lot more people easy access to it without having to actively participate in exchanges.
And that's where we're going to see the mass adoption come into play, is right there with things like Bitcoin ETFs. And when we start to see the market moving in that direction to the upside, and we start to see a lot more retail interest in it, you're going to see those dominoes fall like never before. What we've seen before are dominoes falling and rally from $10,000 to $65,000 very, very quickly. But that is going to pale in comparison to what we see next when we see massive runs up to $100,000 or $200,000. I'm sorry, T-Shroom, what are your thoughts on that? And do you have anything to support that? I know we have a tweet from Timor Fidelity that we might want to look at.
You can pull that. You can pull that tweet up. I wanted to reference the. So I wanted to reference something completely different. So you can come into my screen, Zach. This is the report from January 25th from ARK Investments, and we talked about this in a previous video. But this is essentially what would need to happen in the institutional world globally in order for Bitcoin to get to 1 million by 2030. And it could happen sooner than that, but this is so remittances would need to be 50% of global remittances at 1.5 velocity. That gets it a little technical, but 50% of remittances are just when people are sending money from a country into another country, and that is a very big market. That's a $0.3 trillion market cap, and it would need 50% of that. And then on down the line, I'm not going to read all of these, you can see them, but nation state treasuries would only need to convert 1% of their total reserves to Bitcoin.
Holy crap.
Institutional investment would only need to go to, is that 2.5 of institutional asset. So it's not like the world has to convert 100% to Bitcoin, in order for us to hit 1 million. Most of these numbers are, all these numbers are below 50%. All these percentages. It's not like Bank of America has to switch over 100%, and the United States Federal Reserve has to, or our Treasury has to convert 100% to Bitcoin. These numbers, especially for something like the U.S. Treasury, could be in probably the single digits. What's the summary of this? It's optimistic because it does not going to take that much. All it needs is just for folks to get in the positions of power that understand Bitcoin's implications, understand its security features, understand its energy efficiency, understand how it can create the best stable store of value and exchange. So, that's really what came to my mind when I was seeing Will Clemente's tweet. But you had another tweet to kind of buttress this argument as well.
Yeah, well, there is, and there's one I want to talk about. But let me ask you this: but even before we get there, what nation-state treasury, as ARK Invest report on page 55 of their January report came out and said 1% of total nation-state treasury would add $3.8 trillion in market capitalization to Bitcoin, which would be $181,000 of Bitcoin in its own right. Do you think one of the big things that we should be on the lookout for is when nation-states start adopting Bitcoin into their treasury? That hasn't happened in a major way, to my knowledge, has it? Either one of you guys know that?
Oh, absolutely. I think the nation states starting to adopt in their treasury. I think that actually I was just listening to a podcast about this. The big nation states are actually being careful. There's kind of like a Mexican standoff right now because world powers are realizing that Bitcoin can actually be like war 3, essentially. Instead of we had ground wars, and then we had nuclear wars, or we had nuclear threat of wars, and now we have cyber wars. Bitcoin is kind of the cacophony of that, and it gets kind of technical, and I don't fully understand it, but yeah, absolutely. Kelly, what were you thinking?
I mean, I agree. I think, there's places like Brazil and Argentina, Buenos Aires just passed a bill to where they're going to be accepting taxes in Bitcoin and crypto. And honestly, I think the smartest move for any nation to make, regardless of whether or not they make it legal tender, would be just to, they don't even need to necessarily aggressively move into Bitcoin and crypto. They can just allow, integrative sort of policies like accepting taxes in crypto, that would, I mean, I don't know what the number is on the amount of taxes, for instance, the US collects every year, but if even half that amount was collected in Bitcoin, or a third of that, that would immediately add a massive stock of crypto to the treasuries. But
about $4 trillion
I
that's collected annually in federal taxes.
how much?
It's $4 or $5 trillion, and they still run a deficit, but they collect trillions of dollars in taxes every single year.
But then the flip side of that is, especially in especially in like somewhere like the Western countries where crypto is the people that have been involved in crypto have been involved in a while. So I'm not sure if they would be willing to part with their crypto to pay taxes, because that's another form of selling, right? Because you're getting rid of, you're offloading crypto that we all know is smarter to hold for long term. So I'm not really sure what the answer is there, but I definitely agree with you. I think that not financial sovereignty, but basically this financial sort of power struggle of reserve currency and who controls it. I mean, I think it's sad to say, as being a member, a citizen of the U.S., but the U.S. dollar, I can't see being world reserve currency for another 50 years.
I don't
think
either. Not at this rate.
It's much less likely than it is to just stay as it is. So I think that it's more equitable globally if we move to something like Bitcoin as and when we have these things that coming from Jack Mallers and Strike, with the speed in which that they're allowing to transfer Bitcoin and just remittances in general, although that's not directly 100% tied to Bitcoin, because you can transact dollars, which then are transacted across the Bitcoin rail and then can be converted back to fiat. But that's another one of those huge building blocks that's getting people more comfortable with utilizing Bitcoin, not only as a store of value, but also as a technology. I mean, I don't see this as a possibility as not becoming the world reserve currency within the next 50 years.
That's a bold statement. That's a bold statement. And if it did, you'd see probably a $50 million Bitcoin if it actually did become world reserve currency, because you have trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in US dollars being the world reserve currency. Let me just show you real quick what you were talking about, Kelly. In 2021, the government collected $4.05 trillion in revenue and still managed to spend $6.82 trillion in revenue, with nearly a $3 trillion deficit in 2021. Half of that would be $2 trillion a year in tax collection going through Bitcoin, which is what you were talking about. So yeah, that would be huge if 50% of taxes in the United States were collected in Bitcoin. That would be definitely one way for the government to start, the U.S. federal government to start adding Bitcoin into its reserves. Now, backing up what Will Clemente was talking about, Timur Fidelity over here over on Twitter said this: will Bitcoin become a fixture? Here we see a number of global mobile phone users and global internet users regressed against the number of Bitcoin addresses. Both analogs support the idea that Bitcoin and Ethereum network has a lot more growing to do. Let's take a look at this. You can see following this model. Now, I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail explaining what this is and what they're talking about here. We're talking about growth model of internet users as a percentage of population and growth model mobile phone users per 100 people. Watching this grow, we would see Bitcoin, if it followed those tracks, growing by 2035 to well over $1 million per coin. And I think that that's a pretty conservative number, to be quite honest with you. There are a few other things that we can back that up with. Crypto rising, 80% of major investors see bright future for cryptocurrency, survey shows. I'll scroll down here a little bit and you can pause and read this article. The research gathered data from 28,563 respondents in 23 countries across Asia Pacific, Africa, Latin America, North America, Europe, and the Middle East. And they, for the most part, believe that there is a huge opportunity in cryptocurrency in the next 10 years, which makes a lot of sense. So here's the fact, guys. Bitcoin is doing exceptionally well, and if you're worried about today's price action, fair enough. Of course, we don't want to see Bitcoin drop down to $30,000. We'd like to see it go on a parabolic run because we've had time to accumulate at $30,000. If it does go down there, see it as an opportunity, not as a threat. Look at it as the ability for us to accumulate more Bitcoin. But no matter what happens, where we are right now looks like we're at the top. But here in 5 years, here's what this period of the market is going to look like. It's going to probably look something like this. It's going to probably look like we're just sitting down here and then Bitcoin has gone up in this direction. That's what we're likely going to see in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. All of this data that we've seen print over the last 2 years is going to be a stepping stone to where we're going. This looks like a big deal, but let's put it in perspective. If we look at the last bull market in 2017 compared to the current bull market, you see this? This is what it looks like. At the time, I remember it looked like this. And wow, Bitcoin was doing exceptional things. But then you zoom out and you get perspective, and it's a blip on the radar compared to where Bitcoin is now. We're going to see the same thing happen in the next 4 years. You're going to more than likely see Bitcoin trading up to $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 by the middle part of this decade. And by the end of this decade, you very well may see $1 million Bitcoin. And I, for one, am very much excited for that to take place.
Yeah, if you jump over to my screen, I mean, we're all over here talking about 1 million Bitcoin. I was reading this article, this Medium post yesterday from Arthur Hayes, who's the co-founder of 100X. He cited this this interesting quote from a Chinese People's Bank of China advisor. He said, we were shocked. We never expected that the U.S. would freeze a country's foreign currency reserves one day, and this action has fundamentally undermined national credibility in the international monetary system. You can come back to me.
Talking about Afghanistan?
Talking about Russia.
And Russia.
So what happened recently in January, or actually I don't know if it was in January, but when the United States essentially put a freeze on Russia's assets, this was more than a sanction. This had never been done before. China was observing, and one of their advisors felt comfortable enough to go public with stating that he was shocked. And what that essentially does is, like, the United States, I believe, had never taken that level of action before to freeze those funds in the way that they did. And the world often holds the United States. Not often. The United States dollar is the #1 held reserve currency around the world in treasuries. And for the United States to do that, it really sends shocks around the world. And the Chinese saw that, and they're the #1 holder, I believe, of treasuries in that way, of USD in their treasuries. And so it just goes to show that the United States dollar's days are numbered. And Arthur Hayes does make a claim. The whole article actually is kind of showing how what he calls the doom loop will lead to a $1 million Bitcoin. Essentially, the world starting to lose faith in the dollar, and a bunch of other macroeconomic events happening to essentially crumble fiat currency as we know it. And the only other option would be that the world goes back to some kind of a gold standard. He also makes an argument for that, but the speed at which you can transfer gold is unlikely. And if we're moving into a world of geopolitical unrest and distrust, we're not. The way that gold can move fast is that you make basically derivatives of gold and ETFs of gold, and we're not going to. People don't. Governments don't trust each other enough to do that. So, but if you can send a hard currency like Bitcoin across the world in a second, that's the way to do it. And so he's predicting that world treasuries essentially will start to hold a lot of Bitcoin.
If that happened, Bitcoin would go parabolic, and you'd see $1 million Bitcoin in no time. If you start seeing world treasury reserves going in that direction, and treasuries going in that direction, oh man,
I'll drop the link to that right now.
Very, very, very expensive Bitcoin. Well, guys, we brought you a lot of data today. You got a lot to chew on, a lot to digest. So if you enjoyed today's stream, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And again, for everybody who is in Club DeFi, because there's a bunch of you guys that are in Club DeFi that are not in the Discord, make sure you go to your account page, scroll to the bottom. There'll be a little dark button. I think it's the Discord blue or whatever color it is. I'm colorblind, so I can't tell you what color it is. But it's the dark mode Discord color down there, and it'll say connect to Discord. It's an automated Discord connector, and it will get you in there very, very easily. So make sure you join the Discord so that we can make sure that we are interacting with you guys on a regular basis. We've got 19 people online in the Discord right now. A lot of chat going on over there. Alchemist's in there. Mike Markle's in there. Gia S is in there. Margot. Alex Green's in there. A bunch of people in the Discord. I'm about to go talk to you guys right after we get off the stream. So I cannot wait for Club DeFi to fully launch. I was talking to Shannon earlier. I said, how many people do you think are going to be in Club DeFi after launch? He was like, Jeb, I don't know, but thousands. It's going to be crazy. If we opened it tomorrow and we poured a bunch of money into advertising, it's going to go insane. We could see 30, 40,000 people in Club DeFi in the next few years, and I don't think that's a stretch, to be honest with you, because we're about to revolutionize education in the cryptocurrency space, one Club DeFi member at a time, and I cannot wait to see all of you guys continue to grow. We've been doing education here on YouTube for 4.5 years. We've got the experience. We know how to do it, and we cannot wait to help you in your journey to becoming financially sovereign in the cryptocurrency space. Give me a hashtag FinSov in chat. Any final thoughts from anyone here on the stream other than me?
Oh, I just want to echo, our appreciation and love for everybody that tunes in every day. For anybody that's not aware, we read through the chat the entire time it's going.
Yep.
We try to answer as many questions as possible, and stuff that we're not able to answer on stream, we try to take note of so we can make sure that we answer and we're engaged with all of you as much as possible, because we do this for you all. All the money that's made on this channel is honestly, for the most part, poured directly back into developing more stuff that we can give to you all. And I do want to make one clarifying point. The Discord is something that's available to everybody that's involved in Club DeFi. So of course that's a little bit limited right now since we're in beta, but as we open that up and more of y'all get in, definitely make sure once you get into Club DeFi, join in on the Discord.
Yep.
And also tune in tonight. I'll be doing the Crypto Answered with on Twitter Spaces with Plan C and Jesse Olsen, and I think Tom Crown might be coming on, as well as Kevin Svensson tonight.
Oh, wow.
And a couple Wendy O's also hopping on tonight.
Woo.
But definitely check us out there. Jeb tends to pop in sometimes as well, but we just love sharing as much information with you all as possible. So thanks for tuning in with us here at Crypto Jab, Coffee and Crypto.
Good deal, guys. Well, thank you so very much for tuning in. Make sure to check out Market Cypher. The link for that is down below. And I guess that's going to do it for today's stream. Make sure to hit that like button. Follow us on all of our social media at CryptoJeb over on Instagram and Twitter, at CryptoJeb on Facebook, too. You didn't know we were on Facebook, but we are. We post a lot of updates over there, including how this stream becomes a podcast. You might not have known, but we're on Spotify, too. We're all over the place. And we're also on TikTok. Make sure to follow us on TikTok at CryptoJebOfficial. We post over there twice a day. Wouldn't want you to miss all the content we're putting on all of these platforms. Before we go, though, guys, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling.